Hello everyone, I'm JD Kathuria, founder and CEO of WashingtonExec. Today, you're meeting us in the Maximus new headquarters in Tyson's Corner. A space is built for collaboration, innovation, and idea sharing, and we're very excited to be recording on site. And we're fortunate to be joined by Maximus President and CEO, Bruce Caswell, to talk about the new design behind the new headquarters and future vision of the company. Thanks for having us, Bruce.
Absolutely, JD. Thanks for being here.
I understand you recently laid out a new strategic vision for Maximus. Can you share your direction and priorities for the next 3 to 5 years?
I'd be happy to. Maximus has been around for nearly 50 years. We have nearly 40,000 employees on a global basis. As we thought about our strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, we decided to focus on 3 pillars. The first one is the future of health. Health and healthcare, needless to say, is critical for all citizens, and we've established ourselves as an independent and conflict-free provider of critical healthcare assessments and clinical services to governments that are seeking to ensure that the right citizens get the right benefits. Now, that could be access to disability benefits for a veteran, or it could be access to financial benefits, or ultimately other types of benefits for citizens that are seeking those from government, and they need to have an independent, conflict-free entity to help them in that determination. So as we think about the future of health, that's one of the trajectories, if you will, that we're going to expand on. The other point I'll make as I talk about these pillars is that we're building on some acquisitions we've done in the last year. In particular, we combined with Attain's Federal, which brought a great deal of technology capabilities. And in addition to that, we combined with a company called Veterans Evaluation Services out of Houston, Texas. And VES brings to Maximus a tremendous legacy and history of serving our nation's veterans in helping them get access to the benefits that they deserve. So I said there were 3 pillars. I'll hit all 3 briefly. The second pillar is citizen services digitally enabled. Needless to say, the customer experience is at the front of mind of many government clients that we all serve these days. And citizens these days certainly expect to interact with government and the programs that they provide much in the same way they do with commercial services. And that gap has been narrowing and narrowing over time. So as we think about citizen services, I will say I'm tremendously proud of the progress that we've made developing mobile applications and portals and so forth that support consumers' interaction with the programs that we serve. But in addition to that now, data is becoming more accessible. It's more structured, it can be shared across silos, and you can use that data to improve the citizen experience by applying techniques like artificial intelligence and machine learning. We, as a customer service provider, focus on things like speech analytics and understanding, are consumers really getting to the nature of the service that they called for? Are they being provided a service in a quality fashion? And you'd be amazed at how that technology can be applied now to not just enhance the customer's experience, but also to ensure a high quality experience itself. The third pillar is technology services. And technology services is a bit, a direct reflection of our combination with Attain. For many years, I think our government customers in some ways, but also others, have viewed Maximus mostly as a provider of program administration services. So some would say contact center services and so forth. But we really have moved definitively in the direction of providing complex technology solutions that help government customers modernize and improve their programs. Consistent with their missions. So happy to talk more about it, but those are the 3 pillars, and we think that they set out a strategic direction that will enable the company to grow in the mid-single-digit range organically for the foreseeable future and open up a market that's about $150 billion in size.
Wow. Bruce, you mentioned conflict-free vendor. What does that mean?
So to be independent and conflict-free, in our world, that means you can't have a relationship with a health plan or a provider or a hospital system or anyone who might be affiliated from a financial perspective with the payer program that you're helping administer. So what that means would be like Medicaid or Medicare. In order for us to serve citizens in Medicaid, for example, and conduct assessments to determine whether they qualify for long-term care services, we can't also be a beneficiary of the spend on those services themselves. And so that just means that we operate in what some have referred to over time as a walled garden, where we don't do work for health plans, we don't do work for hospital groups. You'd never see us involved in those sectors, and we like it that way. We think that there's a strong demand in government for that independent and conflict-free status.
Okay, good. How does this vision add to the value Maximus brings to its citizens and its government customers?
We think this vision brings value in two areas. And when you think about Maximus as a company, you think about the business process services that we provide, and you think ultimately about the technology solutions that we can now provide to our customers. So let me take each. From a business process perspective, over the last several years, we've really demonstrated our ability to be agile and to respond often in high capacity situations to the needs of government. And I thought I'd just use a small example. As the pandemic developed, we had strategically, fortunately, before the pandemic, made a decision to migrate our IT infrastructure to the cloud, including our telephony environment. And when the president last year came out and said, let's try to get 70% of Americans vaccinated by July 4th, you may remember that, we stepped up and were able to stand up a virtual call center operation that required hiring 20,000 people in the space of a couple of weeks. And I, at the time, paused and said, who in the world would hire 20,000 people in a couple of weeks? Amazon maybe could do that. But we were able to do that and get people to work in a secure manner from home, BYOD, bringing their own devices, through a cloud-based connection that enabled them to get trained and ultimately provide services with, I want to say, roughly 12 to 14,000 of them all starting work on one Monday morning. Now that's a heck of a first day of work together with everybody virtually. So demonstrating that capacity and being able to scale the business in times of great challenge is something I think that really differentiates this company from others in the market. I also mentioned technology consulting services. And I will say there that the capabilities that became part of Maximus through the Attain Federal acquisition really respond directly to the areas of greatest need that we see from our government customers. And those include things like agile software development, the model of kind of DevSecOps deployment of software to get to, there's kind of a holy grail of what folks call continuous integration, continuous deployment. When you think of Netflix, for example, that's a company that's constantly deploying software on its platform, even while it's running. And there are government agencies that aspire to get to that level of capability because it allows them to not just provide better services for the citizens or constituents that they serve, but also be able to respond to rapidly changing events, often related to policy changes or legislative changes and so forth. So we're proud to be the number one provider of technology services to a number of critical federal agencies like the IRS and the SEC, both of whom have very strong IT modernization initiatives. And as a company, with the technology investments we've made, we're much better positioned now than we were 3 or 4 years ago to respond to that need.
How's the company focusing on technology modernization and transformation to reach these goals for its customers?
So I'll spend a little bit more time on that thought of technology transformation. At the end of the day, the fact is it begins with the customers. And one of the emphasis that we've been focused on is how do we really go further in connecting with our customers and achieving kind of customer intimacy, making sure that we're really listening to and understanding their needs. And we've really transformed, if you will, the way we go to market. Our sales leader is actually the individual who's in charge of growth of the business in our federal segment is a former federal chief information officer. And that may be uncharacteristic in the GovCon community. But at the same time, we feel it helps us stay connected and relevant to the customer's needs. And so, we're thrilled that in combination with the capabilities that we've acquired, we feel like we've got the ability now to address some of the more urgent and pressing needs of government. So to give you a little bit more insight on the strategy, as we think about technology services going forward over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to focus on hybrid cloud automation, hybrid cloud management. We're going to focus on information intelligence, and we're going to focus on extreme automation. And you can imagine all of that wrapped, suitably in cybersecurity as part of the deployment model.
Bruce, I forgot to ask you, what is the future of the healthcare business at Maximus?
Well, the future of the healthcare business, and I'm glad you asked the question because it needs to be viewed through the lens of the independent and conflict-free status that we talked about earlier. And the fact is, there are really 3 areas that we think have great potential. Within just the civilian agency community and to some degree also the military health system and the Defense Health Administration, there is a strong demand, this is just within federal, for more clinical assessment services such as the ones I described before, such as those that we do for veterans or that we do for Medicaid long-term care customers or what have you. So we think the whole clinical assessments space has some unaddressed market and great opportunities for us to continue to expand our work. And that similarly goes for potentially the state level or even part of our what we call outside the US or international segment. The second area is probably on everybody's mind, and that's public health. I mean, the pandemic really, kind of rendered in stark relief the seams that exist between the various levels of government, whether as it relates to collecting data and getting critical public health data kind of up through the process so it can be analyzed and policies can be adjusted and so forth. But also it reflects an underinvestment, or it set us back, if you will, in other critical areas of public health. So addressing the data integration needs, but also the program modernization and deployment needs in public health will be a part of our strategy, which kind of links to the third. There are, around the world, a priority of many governments is to address what we would call non-communicable disease states or conditions. And so that could range from obesity and diabetes to, of course, mental health challenges that many have and have had for years, but have been exacerbated by the pandemic. And we see many governments kind of stepping back and formulating new strategies to get accessible services, often using telehealth platforms, to citizens that need them in those areas. And we've made investments to address that as well. So kind of a three-pronged strategy as it relates to the future of health.
Wonderful. How do you plan to continue evolving and innovating Maximus strategies, spaces, and visions to meet the changing needs of customers in the future?
The first area in terms of the future of health is really to continue to expand upon the area of clinical health assessments that we talked about earlier. And we do this in the context of the independence and conflict-free status that I mentioned. An example would be there are a number of areas within the federal government that opportunities exist to continue to do more independent, conflict-free clinical assessments, like the Defense Health Agency, the military health system, but also in other federal civilian agencies as it relates to readiness and fitness for duty, but importantly also occupational health, federal occupational health. Going beyond even the U.S. federal government, we believe there are opportunities to continue to do these types of assessments for the Medicaid population at the state level, but also on an international basis. Okay? All right.
Switching gears a bit, considering we're conducting this interview from Maximus' new headquarters in Tysons, can you talk a little bit about the importance of this new design and the functionality, and how does this hybrid work environment benefit your workforce and your customers?
Well, I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk about that and it's great to follow a discussion of strategy with a discussion about our employees. Because at the end of the day, our employees are our greatest asset. And we really focused on creating a work environment for them that underscores the importance of collaboration, meeting together in small teams, driving ideas and innovation in the work that they do. There's a focus here on employee wellness and well-being, and I'll give examples in just a minute. Most importantly, having a little fun while we're at it. The market for talent is incredibly competitive these days, and I'm pleased that already in interviews that I've seen, that I've heard about and even had with prospective employees, they've said, this place makes a difference. This is a place where you want to come to work, you want to be here with your colleagues. So a few examples would be, we invested really heavily in technology. I'm told there are over 100 panel screens in the building, so that any meeting room you're in, you can comfortably and seamlessly conduct a meeting with Zoom or Teams, so folks don't feel like they're at a disadvantage if they're not actually there at the table. At the same time, there are reasons to be here. Every desk in the building, including mine, is automated so that you can work a portion of your day standing up or a portion of your day sitting down. This is something that historically, people thought, that's just a fad, this thing about, the standing desk. But the reality is, the data backs it up. and it's a real health benefit. It's a focus on wellness, and it's something that I'm glad we've invested in. And then lastly, we, as a bit of an homage to Greg Baroni and the Attain folks, we kept the ping pong table but we actually upgraded it, but kept it in its same place here on our 12th floor, so we have some spirited ping pong matches. I'm told that one of our general managers, his weakness is he's got no backhand, so I'm waiting to exploit
Who is that, Bruce?
That would be Akbar Palan, but we'll see.
How do you plan to continue evolving and innovating Maximus strategies, spaces, and visions to meet the changing needs of customers in the future?
Well, you've really hit on an important topic. I think that we, like any company, have to constantly be focusing on how we're evolving. If I can say anything with certainty today, it's that our vision for the next 3 to 5 years, while it's a great vision and a great strategy, likely won't be exactly right what happens in the next 3 to 5 years. You constantly need to be adjusting and trimming the sails and making sure changing the course in response to customers' needs, the marketplace realities and so forth, and the capabilities that are being demanded. So as I've thought about that, I think about two things. The first is our employees. How do we continue to be an employer of choice in the Washington area and really internationally for that matter? Something that draws people to Maximus is the vision and the mission of the company. The fact that we are here to help government move people forward. And there's something about the work, the very nature of the work that we do that's compelling. But we have to do that in the context of a great work environment, wonderful colleagues, fair compensation and benefit policies, all those things. So we'll continue to evolve all those things to make Maximus a highly desirable employer into the future. The second thing comes back to customers. Let's stay focused on our customers. Let's make investments so that we can drive innovation into the solutions that we provide our customers. So without necessarily tipping the hand too much, I will say expect to see an investment in capabilities like a demo lab, or think about it maybe as a customer experience center, where we can come together with our customers and test out emerging technologies and talk about how those approaches to solutions can help them achieve their mission and move them forward. So we're excited about that. That's a little something to come. Maybe another reason to bring you back here and have another look.
And Bruce, one last question. What is something most people don't know about you personally?
Oh, well, I have to confess, most don't know that I'm a bit of a neurotic runner and have crossed a number of years over to the dark side and have done a fairly substantial number of ultra marathons. So that's something that keeps me energized and helps me work off of those really caloric but very enjoyable lunches that you put on.
Yes. Well, Bruce, what is your most proud ultramarathon you've done recently or you're about to do?
Well, I will say the proudest one was not the time, but rather what it represented. Last fall in November, I ran my 10th JFK 50. So that would be 500 miles of that race, So the 10th one with a couple of friends with whom I've run for many years. And it was a real emotional experience to go wire to wire, with just the three of us. And yeah, it took us 11 hours or whatever, but we had a heck of a time. And it was a great moment. Something I'll always remember.